Where do I start? Where do I start with this? This is blagging my head, really. I'm not happy about this at all. I'm not happy. We had 31 days to get something done and we didn't do it. In what is going to be an important season again. Last season, we operated on a shoestring budget. Moyes had very little financial resources. We still got 5th in the league and qualified for Europe. This season, we're doing the same thing, only this time, we're challenging for a top 4 place. We're rivaling Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Chelsea and teams like that. That would be dreamland, right? Yeah. But it might not be come May. January would have been a time to strengthen. Because other teams in this league have strengthened. Everyone's got different reasons for strengthening. You've got teams like Newcastle who've had blinders of transfer windows to improve their squad in order to stay in the Premier League. You've got teams like Tottenham who are trying to challenge for top 4. And they signed some players. Everton signed 2 players on deadline day, half an hour after Frank Lampard was confirmed as manager. Everyone worked quickly to get players in. And when players did leave, their positions were replaced by another player. Burnley sold Chris Wood to Newcastle. There's one way of looking at that and saying that Newcastle weakened a relegation rival. It didn't bother Burnley though, because they just went and bought another striker on deadline day. They replaced the striker with a striker, and there was no concern there. But this is a West Ham video, not a Burnley or a Newcastle video. And I have to talk about my club's incompetence, absolute shambolic January transfer window in a very defining season. Everyone talks about West Ham being an ambitious club, a big club. I don't see it right now. I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Why? We don't do enough to be a big club. We're only a big club right now in many people's eyes because we're challenging for Europe and we're actually doing really well this season. And that's great. I'm happy with the position that we're in the league. It's better than being in a relegation battle, of course. But we had a chance to sign 1 or 2 players in, to give us that extra depth, to give us those extra defensive and attacking options, to give us a little more something off the bench. Because that's what other teams have. They have depth. And West Ham doesn't have that. We have about as much depth as the shallow end of a bleeding swimming pool. Other teams are in the deep end. They're chock full of options. We've got an aging squad, a thin squad, and we could have corrected it in January. Could have signed at least a striker and a centre-back. Striker to give Antonio competition and cover, another centre-back, someone who could complement Kurt Zouma. Our defence has been poor all season, in all honesty. And we need another centre-back. I know Bonner went down and said it, we need to get a centre-back in January. We haven't done that. We failed to do so at the end of the day. I don't care about trying. We tried. I'm sick of hearing we tried. Everything about this football club is we tried. But we didn't do. Because this club, our actions don't speak louder than our words. We're all talk. We talk about being a big club. We're not a big club, really, if we can't make these kind of moves. And this season we had a chance to build on something. We had a chance to stay in the top 4. And stay in that top 4 race. Get Champions League football. That's what Moyes wants as his dream. And if he wanted to make that a reality, he would have gone out and bought those players. And got those transfer targets in. And now that he has not done it, he's got a lot to answer to. Just don't know where to start with this. Got a lot to say. My point is this. If we want to be a big, successful club for the foreseeable future, we have to build a team around players such as Rice, Bowen and Zouma. 3 core players in our starting 11. And our starting 11 is good on any day. No mistake about it. But Rice, Bowen and Zouma are the big trio, in my opinion. Rice is especially a hot commodity. He's of great value to our club and great value in the eyes of a lot of teams. Bowen is the same. Zouma is our best centre-back signing in years. And if we want to plan for the future, we've got to sign younger players that can last for years to come. Players who are like 20 and 25 years old. And we don't do that. We don't do that. And it's going to make us even more worrying stuff later down the line, because we got Yarmolenko out of contract in the summer. You know, Fabianski's out of contract next year. Johnson will be out of contract. Masuaku, Cresswell's contract's going to be up. Noble's retiring at the end of the season. We might lose Alex Kral because his loan might not be turned into a permanent move. We could lose it to 7 players within the next 15 months or so. And we need to start building for the future. Like I say, it's about being proactive as well. Building for the future is part of being proactive. And the problem with this club is that it is reactive. It doesn't do anything productive. It doesn't do anything to actually say, yes, this is what we want to do. This is our objective. Let's do this, that, and the other to get to that objective. Let's sign this player, and this player in these positions because our objective is to get into the Champions League. And we will do so this way. That's about having a plan and a long-term vision. Goldsullivan and Brady have never had a long-term vision for this club. It's just a scatterbrained approach, and we know that. They just do things on the fly, or as they please. And they're not gonna leave any kind of legacy at West Ham, albeit a negative one, if you could call it that. They're not going to leave any good legacy at this club because of the work they do in the transfer window, or little work. We've known for a long time what we've needed at this club. We've needed a younger core. We have 30-plus-year-old players on massive wages. It's not needed and not necessary. They're getting older. You don't give them massive contracts. You give that to your younger players and show them that you want them to stay around. Not saying that money talks, but think about where your priorities are lie for the future. Again, think ahead. We don't do that. What we should have done in January, we should have got a younger defender who were linked with Coletta Carr. Perfect. Because he's 25 years old, he's proven in Europe, he's mature enough, but we might want to take a risk on him because, he's not proven in the Premier League. Take the risk and you will see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least you take the risk. And you say, oh yeah, this might happen. This might be what happens. And it might come good. We've needed a striker now for the last 3 transfer windows. We haven't had that come in. It's been over a year since we sold Haller. And we haven't replaced him. It's ridiculous. We've only got Antonio now, so we're going to have to really wrap him up in cotton wool and hope that he's in lightning form every single game. Otherwise, what's the point? Antonio said that he wanted someone to come and help him out. Maybe someone to provide a bit of competition. I said this in so many other videos. He needed someone to help him out. We need someone who can be an extra option off the bench. We don't have that. We just have Yarmolenko, and he's absolutely useless. It's not good enough. It's beyond not good enough. It's totally unacceptable from a Premier League club, which is worth billions in the eyes of these owners. Well, actually, it's not. It's worth probably about, what did they value at? £600 million at least? With all these billionaires on our board who are injecting cash in. How can we be broke? How can they not spend money? Don't get it. I don't get this football club. I don't get what goes on behind the scenes. It's just ridiculous. You know what? David Moyes and all that, they're all to blame. This part of the video is going to explain why they're all to blame. Part of the blame goes on Moyes, because I don't think he is a proactive manager in the transfer window. I don't think that he's necessarily one to be firm and put his foot down and let his feelings be known to the board. Not in the same way Pellegrini did. And I think the owners could see him as another man to manipulate. Moyes is in charge of the current project at West Ham. And in all honesty, Mark Twain said famously, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And our last 3 managers that has been the case. When Bilic came in, it was the farewell bowling season. We said he's a former player, he understands West Ham well, signed a lot of players over that that summer window, some of whom are still here today, and we gave the bowling ground a good send-off. We qualified for European football, and we always saying this. We've got Payet in the team now, we've got a good team, and we can build something for the future at a new stadium. That'll start to fall apart. Bilic was decreasingly backed, wasn't given the money. There was problems with players, problems with team chemistry. The famous William Carvalho bid that didn't go through and resulted in the owners being called the Dildo Brothers. Bilic ended up getting sacked because he was thrown under the bus. When Pellegrini came in summer of 2018, we spent over 172 million in 2 windows. We had depth. At last, we had depth. This is the important thing. Bilic even had depth, especially in the striker position. He had at least 4 players who he could bring off the bench in terms of his strikers, and even on all his other positions. He had those options. No matter how good or bad they were, he still had those options. Pellegrini, he had striker options as well. And in that first season under Pellegrini, things actually were okay. We got a top 10 finish for the first time since 2016. But it still wasn't an excuse not to spend money. And then gradually we started to sell off all of our strikers and not replace them. And then, after Pellegrini was sacked, we had a January transfer window where we needed to bring in another defensive midfielder and a striker. We faffed around. We missed out on a lot of major targets. But eventually, David Moyes was reappointed and he said he wanted to build something for the long-term future. But his first job was to stabilise the club. So in January, even though he left it late, he brought in Thomas Souček and Jared Bowen. Those were 2 good signings that came late. The summer, he brought in Sofal and Ben Rama very late, towards the end, actually, at the end of the window. And we were all starting to say, okay, at least he's doing his business late here, and at least he's getting the players in. But the most important thing is, they're good players. So maybe Moyes signing and waiting late in the window isn't necessarily a bad thing, is what we all said. That's what we all thought. January, it was the same. January, we needed to go and get a striker. We sold Hilaire. We needed to get another striker in, like a normal functioning club would, like a commonsensical club would. But no, we got in Jesse Lingard on loan. And fair enough, he scored 9 goals, 16 games, got us into Europa League. He helped us to get into Europe. So temporarily, we let not signing a striker slide, but we still needed one in the summer. And we were linked with so many strikers. And Moyes had 3 months this time to get somebody in. It looked like he wasn't going to do it, and we needed to improve the squad. We started off the season well, around August, but we still needed extra players. In the last few days of the window, finally, business was done. And I still don't think it was an acceptable window, though. Yeah, we might have spent £65 million, but it still wasn't a good window, because we didn't sign a striker. We didn't get the positions that we absolutely needed. We got in Zuma. Brilliant bit of business. We got in Vlasic. I was willing to give him a chance, and I think it's been good business. Kral. That's just the work of the checkmates. We got in Alphonso Areola as a goalkeeper for the future. So we're looking at those signings, and we were saying yet again, Moyes has left it late. He's left his transfer business late, but, he wants to sign the right players. He wants to get in the good players. But we still didn't sign a striker like we needed. Then, in October and November, even better things happened. Moyes finally got a director of football in so that Sullivan wouldn't solely be in charge of the transfers. Rob Newman, a man who worked at Manchester City as an international recruiter, who arguably helped to build City to the club that it is today in terms of its player calibre. Experienced scout and experienced recruitment official came into the club. And we were all saying, January's going to come round and we're finally going to get some signings done under this man. Scouting network was set up and they were sent out to scout players. And we were getting our hopes up. Daniel Kretinsky became a shareholder at West Ham and decreased Sullivan's share on the club. It dropped by around 12%. Kretinsky set a vision for the long term at West Ham. And that, again, was thanks to Thomas Souček and Vladimir Sofal and Alex Kral's presence. Moyes made major changes to the club's infrastructure because by what he wanted. He wanted to shut down links and rumours about players. He wanted to shut down all the negativity around the club. And that was done so by the results and the league position. But then January this year came. And David Moyes still has the same rhetoric of, well, I can't promise anything. You know, I can't say anything. I can't guarantee anything. And as much as I respect him for being honest, it is not acceptable to be like that. This club does not act on anything. It reacts to things. We knew that we needed to get in another striker. We haven't acted on that. David Moyes just reacts by giving an excuse in a press conference, for example. I don't know what he's going to say, but he's going to have an interview this week, no doubt, with the club. And it's going to come out on the website, and he's going to have an excuse for not signing a striker. It's going to be along the lines of, oh, we trade, we looked everywhere, but we couldn't find anybody. Are you telling me that there's nobody out there that's younger, fitter, and better than Antonio Yarmolenko? You're telling me there's not a centre-back out there who's better than Diop? Give your head a wobble. Are you serious? I could name at least, 3 or 4 off the top of my head who could have been better than what we've got. Then Moyes goes, oh, I want to sign the right players. No! It's not about faffing about and signing the right players. If you have to get in a stopgap from now until May and then get your real targets in the summer, do that. It's not a bad thing to do. I would have appreciated it. For example, I was looking out to get a new car last summer. I borrowed 2 cars between July to October, and then in October I bought the car that I wanted, having looked around. But I had a temporary vehicle. It's the same thing that should be applied to West Ham. Have a temporary striker until you can find a real one that you want for money and one that you can have for the future. But no. Why? Because we just don't have the urge to do it. We don't have the ambition to do it. I've been trusting Moyes because he's got us into a good position. And he's signed players and good players at the end of every transfer window. I'd rather be up there than down below in the league. But we've had 3 windows with no strikers. He has no depth and no competition. And that'll be Moyes' fault, really, for not signing anybody and for taking a massive risk. One that does not need taking and one that could jeopardise our season. If we don't end up winning games and having that consistency because of a lack of depth, we'll slide down and we'll drop. And there's a trickle-down effect to this. We show no ambition with the lack of signings. And ambition is what keeps the players around. I'm fully convinced that Rice and Bowen will end up leaving this club in the summer unless we do some miraculous work in the first week of the transfer window in the summer. We can say goodbye to them. And we're sorry that we let them down. Because we did. We didn't build a squad around them. We just tried to do everything on the cheap, and we showed no real plan for the future, no ambition. Even though Moyes talks about it, it's not enforced because of people above him as well. Every manager at West Ham's had flaws. Bilic and Pellegrini weren't ideal. They weren't always the best at what they did, but they at least have some kind of depth. This is where I come on to the owners. This is a controversial opinion. I do and I don't blame them for this window. Because ex-West Ham United employee always says that the board gives Moyes money and gives him finances to spend. Don't forget, GSB gave Moyes a recruitment system. Could it be so that Sullivan can shift the blame onto Newman? Maybe. But there's a recruitment system in place nonetheless. Newman came in and supposedly he planned early. So where are those plans then? Are you just here to get your paycheck? What's the point of having him in these scouts that I haven't even seen a mention of? I think as long as David Sullivan and David Gold are at this club, things will never progress forward. And because of their lack of investment in this month of January, those toxic vibes are probably going to come back. Don't want it to happen at the Watford game, just so you know, because that should be a time to pay your respects to Isla Caton. First home game without her. But I can imagine a bit of like toxicity coming around this club. It's already started to come out because Claret and Hugh, those two absolute idiots, have written an article saying that David Moyes is like crashing and burning. Nice. Nice. That's another little bit of toxicity to them two, and they can get out our club. But as I say, Moyes is taking a big risk here. It's going to undo all of his hard work. And if things don't go to plan, it'll cost him his job. And we'll be in the same predicament where we've had another manager who started to build something great, tried to maintain it in the next season, but declined because of a lack of investment. Because the people above him wouldn't back him. You know, other teams have depth. They've added. And if they've sold, they've replaced correctly. Like, I'll give an example. Everton bought in Mikalenko so they could sell Luca Dean to Aston Villa. And then Aston Villa could loan Matt Targett up to Newcastle. It worked fine at every end because at least they had the right to do that because they could afford to have someone else in that position to cover. You look at teams like Leicester, they've got at least 3 strikers. United have about 4 options they can bring off the bench. We don't have that. We've got an out-of-form Mikel Antonio who's coming back from international duty, no doubt very tired. And we're asking too much of him. When he gets injured, do you blame him? If he's in poor performances, we're then criticising him. But at the same time, do you blame him because he's getting run down? Because no one else can fill in for him. Why? You guessed it. We didn't sign any players. I love this football club. They're my favourite team in the whole of sports. And I'm a big sports fan. But my God. I want to know what goes on behind the scenes. I wonder what these players say when they're not at the stadium or with the fans. What do they go home and tell their families about West Ham? They probably chat a load of crap about the club, and rightly so. It's not good. It's made me feel a bit sick in my stomach. It's made me feel upset. And then we just do the same thing every window. We put in unrealistic bids for players we won't get, like Rafinha and Calvin Phillips for 50 million, just to say we tried. Darwin Núñez bid for 50 million. Knew he wasn't going to get sold. Just why do we do it? And another thing we do, we let things drag on too long. We end up spreading our transfer business all over the back pages of news so that everyone else and every other club in the world has to know about it. Why can't we just do things low-key? You know what I'm saying? With all these leaks and rumours being non-existent, why can't we do things just, under the radar as such? It's not a bad trait of this club. And then we spend days deciding a deal. Lampard was appointed Everton manager on deadline day, and within half an hour, Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli came in. If they can do that business, Everton, within a few hours, then why can't we? And we have done it before. We did it with Bowen. We got that done within 5 hours. It's just not acceptable. The only real chance we have of keeping Rice and Bowen is if we get Champions League football, or if we get Europa at the very least. And for now until the end of the season, it's going to be a struggle. We have a great starting 11, and I have a lot of belief in David Moyes. If you think I'm saying that David Moyes should get out of this club, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. Because he's done amazing things to this club. He's at a club with a good, historical infrastructure. He's at a club that is ideal for him in terms of its size. He's doing good things for us, Moyes. But his decision-making and some of his plans and, ideas for this club are maybe a little bit questionable. His transfer policy certainly is. The owners have somewhat backed David Moyes, and they are to blame as well, but they're not fully to blame. They got David Moyes the tools that he wanted, so why hasn't he used them? Where are all these scouts? Where is Rob Newman even? Where even is he? There's our chance to push on. If we don't get Europe, we can say goodbye to Rice and Bowen. I'm sorry that we failed you. And those two are arguably the core to what could be a long-term future for this club. Long-term progression. Losing them, we're back to square one and we're back in relegation battles. Like how Villa struggled without Grealish? That's exactly what it's going to be like without Declan Rice. And teams like Leicester tie down their best players. They tied down Maddison because they knew that they were going to be ambitious with him. Southampton tied down Ward-Prowse because he would like the ambition coming from Southampton. Declan Rice hasn't tied down a new contract, and last summer he turned down a new contract and was tempted to leave the club. I didn't blame him. He doesn't deserve mediocrity. He doesn't deserve the basic bare minimum. We don't as fans. It's not our fault. We're not the ones who've got to answer to the media. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't choose not to sign players. I hate to blow my own horn, but I do scouting report videos on my channel. I've arguably done probably more scouting work than Newman has. Get me in as the head of recruitment. Yeah, I probably could do a job. I'd certainly get things done. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, it's not a surprise, is it? It happens every transfer window with our owners. Could have Pep Guardiola in his manager and they still probably wouldn't back him. Pellegrini was the only one who stood up to them. And that was great, because we had signings come in every couple of days and done very, very, very quickly. But then they screwed him over. It'll only be a matter of time before ex-players start to talk about Sullivan. Simon Jordan, actually, although he's not an ex-player, said something on TalkSport about how mediocre the recruitment is at West Ham and how bad Sullivan is. Everyone else has got him sussed out, and that might be another reason why people don't do business with us, because they hate doing business with Sullivan because they know he's arrogant and he's stuck up. I still think we're a badly run club, and January's shown this. Every team around us has shown ambition. I look at those teams and those players that sign, and I think that's ambitious. Because they're going to be in the Premier League, they want to compete. They want to go as far as they can. And they'll do whatever it takes to get there. Why do you think Crystal Palace had a massive overhaul in the summer? Why do you think Leicester attracts big names? Why do you think Brighton had a really good transfer window last summer? To push on, and the rewards have been reaped. Reaping what they're sowing. Doing the right things. We're not doing the right things. Last summer's transfer window wasn't that great, really. Oh yeah, we signed all those good players, like I say, but it wasn't that great. It was reactive. And that goes back to another point about being reactive. We got those players in so that the fans wouldn't get on Gold Sullivan's backs. Wouldn't get on Moyes' back. That's all it was. We need to think about what we're going to do over the next few seasons, because we've got players out of contract, older players that we don't need, a young, hungry side, as Moyes always taught us about. But we don't have that. We never have it under these owners. We never have it under any previous manager because of what the owners do. I'm sick of it. I cannot wait for Golden Sullivan to get out of this club. And get Kretinsky in as the full chairman. Because at least he can't be any worse than them. He won't tarnish our legacy, and he won't tarnish our club history. He won't tear down our beloved home. He won't sell our club down the river. I'm worried for the next few months. We have a great start in 11, but what if Rice and Bowen go down? In fact, not saying this to jinx it, but what if I think they should go down injured in the next game, possibly? Because that'll actually say something. If those two do go down in the next game injured and sidelined for the end of the season, probably last time we see him in a West Ham shirt, but it was sending a message to Moyes. It was sending a message to Moyes saying, well, you should have signed players. And Moyes goes, oh, we'll just look for internal solution. You don't have that. You chose not to have that by not signing anybody. Moyes and Sullivan are a bad combination in windows. And Moyes has accepted a lot of crap from those two, Gold and Sullivan. They put faith in him by re-hiring him and giving him a new 3-year deal last summer. I thought, maybe we're onto something. But it happens every time. One thing you learn with West Ham is, whenever something's going right at the club, don't get your hopes up for the long run. Always think about this. What's going to happen when things start to go wrong? We just fall back into the same snake pit and end up being unable to get out. Don't know what to say about from now until the end of the season, but I don't think it's good. It's not good at all. It's just a joke. It's not acceptable. It's shambolic, it's pathetic, it's wimpy, and it's unacceptable. And I would not stand for it at all. We thought we had change in this club. I don't see much change. Oh, we signed Kurt Zouma. Woohoo. Yeah, he's been a great defender. We still have no striker. We're still not addressing some of the old issues. Same old at West Ham. And this transfer window, we just get bids rejected, bid too low at the evaluation, we're short by like 2 million or whatever. Comedy club. How can anyone take us seriously? They can't. I mean, I am still hopeful with the players we've got in the starting 11 we've got, and I have faith in the manager. So my final message to them is this. Moyes, you've chose to make this very thin, low squad and its bed, so you better lie in it. If in May we're not in the Europa League places at least, and we're not in the top four, and we're going down the table like we did in the early stages of 2015, don't come crying to me. Don't want to hear your excuses. Don't want to hear, we tried. Because every time Moyes says we tried, that's the board rubbing their hands like that and controlling him like a little puppet. Because saying we tried and the right players and everything is an excuse. What Moyes should be saying is, I want the board to get in players because we need to, we have to, and we've got to push on. And the only way we're going to do that is by signing X, Y, and Z. But here we are again. We've got poor squad depth. Didn't sign anyone, even though we had 31 days to do so. Even before that, we had an entire 3 bleeding months, and we didn't get anyone in at all. There are a lot of people to blame. They take the responsibility for that. Can't put it any other way. What a shambolic January. In a way, I'm glad it's over. I want to turn my attention to other things on this channel. I rarely make negative videos like this, but I wanted to get my feelings out there. There's no better place to do it than probably on YouTube. But to summarise, if we want to be a successful club and want to be a club that can be taken seriously and that other teams can take it serious, we need to plan for the future. We're an attractive club. We're in Europe. We're doing really well in the domestic league. We're in the Europa League last 16. That's fundamental ambition. We're based in a cosmopolitan footballing capital city. We have everything to attract players from the outside. But when you go into the inside, you see how poorly the club's run. You have ex-players like Paolo Di Canio saying they'd never ever work with David Sullivan. And we've got owners who, when they leave, it's going to be a beautiful day. Be one of the happiest days of my life. Probably as happy as when I graduated university and when I got that car that I talked about earlier. Yeah. This club needs a lot of change. It needs to change its mentality. It needs to change a lot of things. Starts with the owners, and we need an overhaul in the squad, because I don't need to tell David Moyes that he's got a short team, but he's chosen this season after season. He's chosen this in 3 transfer windows not to sign a striker because he couldn't find one that was better, even though that's all lies, because there are tons of options he could have out there. He's put us somewhat in this mess. He's partly to blame. He's the manager of the team. It all trickles down to the manager, doesn't it? Even if there are other people involved, which there are, as I mentioned. We just have to get on with it now until the end of the season and see what happens in May. But confidence, it's not that high right now. You can't blame anyone for that. Poor January. Yeah. Can't believe it. Well, I can, but it's ridiculous. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. Take care, everybody. Now the January transfers window is done, I will be back to normality. My head will be clear of all thoughts of all this, co-signing anybody, and I'll be able to do a bit more videos. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you all soon.